Hello, it's me again. The new season is not too far away. It's like 5-6 days or something like that. I also believe it's the season where 6v6 will be coming back, I think. I don't actually know. I'm pretty sure it is. Anyway, before patch comes out, I usually like to make a little prediction for what I hope is in the patch. And then what I believe will probably be in the patch. So, in the patch, I'm hoping for some Juno nerfs. I think she heals a little bit too much, and her ult is a little bit too good. But other than that, I'm very happy with Juno. I think Juno is much better designed than things like Baptiste and Lifeweaver and things like that. So I think the overall design of Juno is good. I don't like the homing missiles, and I don't like how much she heals, and I don't like her ult being as strong as it is. But other than that, they're just minor tweaks to just some numbers, really, and I think she'd be pretty fine again. That's really all I want done to Juno. I like when Juno is strong. She's a very fair character, so I'm always happy with Juno's strength. Next, most likely, I'm hoping for Ashe nerfs. Now, a lot of people, especially the high elo hitscan players, are like, wah, hitscan is so bad because Diva is good. Wah. Which, fair enough, a lot of the hitscans are terrible. Like, Soldier is terrible. But most of the hitscans are actually not that bad. And a lot of hitscan players like to say that hitscan is terrible all the time. Because they play hitscan. They play the easiest thing in the game, and then, you know, they don't have enough computational power to understand that there are other things in the game, and therefore, if they're playing a hitscan character and they don't kill 5 players every fight, that means the hitscan is obviously bad. That's what the problem is. Whereas that's just obviously not true. Ashe is very strong and has been for basically since her release. She's always been relatively overpowered in terms of her damage output, and she's always been relatively overpowered in her anti-dive capabilities by herself, where she's able to coach gun things away. Now, it's not that strong. It's not like some like absurdly overpowered thing like Suzu or something ridiculous like that. But when you pair the ability of like potential in the 1v1 where she can actually fight back fairly well with super high damage, high range hit scan bullets that are massive and are easy to secure kills with, and mix that with things like AoE damage and a bit of anti-dive and a strong ult, it becomes a little bit too much, where there's not really a range where she's bad because of her combos. Mostly the scope shot, unscope, and then shooting as well does an absurd amount of damage very quickly, so she's just obviously very strong in the 1v1 as well. So I'm not a big fan of Ashe. I don't like her design all that much. I wouldn't mind them keeping the damage on the scope. I think that's pretty okay as it is. Obviously lowering it wouldn't be that bad, but my main issue with Ashe isn't necessarily her damage output, it's more so her survivability in the solo dive. Like, for example, if a Tracer or a Genji dives her, she's got a fair chance, which isn't necessarily problematic, but she's got too good of a chance for what she's capable of, I think. I think if she's willing to be able to output so much damage at range, she also kind of has to be a bit more susceptible to getting dove by things like Tracer and Genji, where she's pretty survivable if her positioning isn't absolutely terrible, which I'm not a huge fan of, because she can already get built up by her supports, and she's typically already a pocket target, so she's always with her supports anyway. I don't know, I'm not a big fan of her. Next, I'm hoping for Baptiste nerfs. That character is broken. I think I've said this every single patch video ever, that Baptiste is broken. Too much damage, too much healing, the AoE healing is too strong, the burst is too high, his shift does too much healing, it's way too good, the MO is way too good, his ult is pretty good. Overall, I'm not a big fan of the AoE in general. I would like if they tightened it so the splash wasn't as big, so you had to be a bit more accurate on his heal. And then I would also like if his damage was a little lower. Not necessarily the fall off, but the actual number itself. I wouldn't even mind giving him more range and then lowering the damage to compensate a bit, so he's outputting a similar-ish damage at range, but just a little bit over, like a little bit lower, to try and make it so he's not absolutely frying people anymore, because it's not uncommon to have Baptistes that are like far out damaging DPSs, because his uptime is so strong all the time. Like, he's always available, always shooting things. And to have that level of uptime and that level of damage output, like, The only real way you're not killing absolutely everything by yourself on Baptiste is if your aim is absolutely terrible, because he has so much potential to just wipe lobbies by himself, basically. No, not all the time. It's not just like a pick the character, win the game situation, obviously not. But it is getting relatively close to that point where you are able to solo a lot of lobbies as Baptiste, because he's just capable of doing absolutely everything. Another hero I'd like to change is Bastion. I don't think Bastion is very good. I actually think he's terrible. But he's insanely brain dead. I would like if they added some kind of more skillful mechanic to him. Because as of right now, it's just kind of like you're walking around in recon mode and your team doing nothing. And then when your sentry comes off cooldown, okay, you pop sentry, shoot the tank until it's done. Go back into recon mode when that cooldown finishes, and then walk around in your team and start shooting stuff again. And it's very boring, it's very one-dimensional, it's very predictable, it's very lame, especially for the enemy team, where it's like if you're playing Ryan, he's shooting you, he's like, okay, well, I'm just going to hide behind the corner for the next like 6 seconds, okay, it's done, I'm going to walk on him and kill him because now he's a free kill. And it's kind of boring for both sides, like no one really enjoys it. So, if anything, I wouldn't even mind Bastion going back to his original design. Especially his ult, whereas ult is no longer that weird artillery thing that sucks. I'd like it if it was the original Overwatch 1.1 where he becomes like the tank and he actually shoots the shells directly at people and they're not artillery. It's just like he's like an actual tank, I guess. That was way more skillful. It had a lot of tech. It actually required you to aim. It tried proactivity where you couldn't just do it in the backline all day. You had to actually go hunting for kills with it. And I was a much bigger fan of that. I also like a bit of a power shift away from his turret config and into his recon mode. Maybe up his recon mode fire rate a little bit, and then nerf the actual sentry, because kind of right now, recon mode is completely useless, basically. Like, you're never killing anything with it. It's terrible. It's low damage, it shoots slowly, it's got a lot of fall off, it's just bad. But the sentry just absolutely deletes basically everything in the game if you get in a good situation with it. So I would like a bit of a power shift back into his recon mode and out of his sentry, and also his ult to go back. Brig, I think Brig is insanely dumb. Everyone has known this since the inception of this channel. Brig has been dumb. I don't like Inspire. It's got 4 times the volume of Lucio's healing, so if you hit anything at all with your flail, your AoE is 4 times bigger than Lucio's, and it does more healing than Lucio, and it's easier than Lucio's because there's no trade-off for it. Plus, she boops a lot, and plus she's insanely difficult to dive. Plus, she makes your backline impossible to dive. She's a very annoying character, and I think a lot of balance things should be, not necessarily should be based off of annoyance. It should be based off of making the game as balanced as possible. But I think annoyance is a factor in whether or not something should be balanced. Like, Brig's boop isn't necessarily skillful at all. It's very simple, it's very easy, it's huge, and you get rewarded with a massive amount of AoE healing for it. I'm not a big fan of Brig's design in really any way, actually. I think the whole character needs a rework. I genuinely don't really like any aspect of Brig, to be completely honest. I don't like her having the shield bash stun again. I don't like her having a shield. I don't like her having armor. I don't like the AoE healing. I don't like how packs are like homing and they like lock on. I don't like any of that. It just feels very cheap. The character itself is cheap. She's not necessarily easy to play. She's not something brain dead like Kiriko, but she is not exactly the most demanding character. She's a bit like Ryan in the fact that you don't really need any mechanics, you need pure game sense. But even then, the character is so strong, you really don't need that much game sense. It's literally just standing next to your other support and protecting them from dive, and then whip-shotting shit on cooldown depending on the enemy team comp. Like, for example, if the enemy team comp is going full poke, but they've got, like, a Genji, well, then you just save your whip-shot for Genji all day. But if they've got something like D.Va and then, like, double hitscan or something, then you just whip-shot the D.Va on cooldown. Like, it's really not that difficult. It doesn't really require a lot of game knowledge to know what you should be whip-shotting. You just kind of press the button when it comes off cooldown, and it's fairly easy to do. I don't like McCree. I think McCree's flashbang does too much damage. I don't like Hinder. You can't crouch during Hinder. It's just dumb. I think genuinely, I think they should rework McCree and make him an actual aim hero, because right now he's not that. You don't really get rewarded for having good aim on the hero because the damage fall off is so crazy. Like, I've always felt bad for McCree mains where if you're shooting at something further than like 20 meters away, well, then you do no damage to it, which seems kind of lame. I think the majority of McCree's playstyle should be based on his ability to aim. and that should kind of be his entry fee. If you can aim really good, then you can play really good on McCree, where he should be more susceptible to dive, so he should lose his damage resistance. His flashbang should get totally reworked into a new ability. I don't know what it would be, but probably something that doesn't stun, or apply the hinder effect. I fucking hate hinder. It's very boring. It's just press the button. Okay, now you've got a status effect where you can't play the game, so I can get a free shot on you. It's very lame, and it does a lot of damage, so I don't like it at all. So, lower his HP pool, get rid of the damage resistance, change flashbang into something else, maybe more of a survivability cooldown, something that actually helps him survive a bit more, that's not just, oh, well, I rolled so I get damage resistance. That's very boring. And it's very lame, too. It's just, like, not a very fun mechanic to interact with, especially if you're Tracer and you pulse him. It just feels like shit to be like, oh, he rolled, so he's better than me. That's very boring. But increase his range, keep his damage the same, let him shoot a little bit faster, make him genuinely a threat to fight. Make it so that if he's got very good aim, he's rewarded for his good aim, and if he misses, he's punished for missing. Not right now, where if he has good aim, it's irrelevant because he does no damage if you're not point blank, and if you are point blank, well then all he has to do is press E for a free kill because you get hindered, and he does 75 damage to you for free. He's a very, very boring, cheesy, lame character with not a lot of skill expression anymore because they kind of stole that from him. Where back in the day, he used to be the aim hero, and I mean that's what he was, and the game was better off for it. D.Va's bullshit. Just in general, she doesn't really work in the game all that well. I think generally speaking, you just lower defense matrix and lower her burst damage, and she's pretty much fine. You just revert the micro missile change, you revert the spread buff change, and then I'm pretty much happy with that. Although lower defense matrix would be nicer, but if that would probably be a little bit too much for the character. But a lot of the issue with the tank heroes is not that the tank heroes are necessarily weak. They're all very strong. The issue with the tank heroes is that they are all fighting for one spot. So for example, if we were using like an arbitrary number for this, let's say D.Va has a strength score of 100, let's say, to keep things simple, but Mauga has a strength score of 105, well then everyone's playing Mauga. It doesn't matter that D.Va's still got a 100 strength score and she's very good, because Mauga's got 105, like those extra 5 points are worth it, therefore you're going to be playing Mauga. So it's not necessarily that the other tank heroes are weak, it's just that their strength score is a little bit lower, and therefore there's no reason to pick them, because you can only pick one tank. Why would you intentionally pick the slightly weaker tank? It doesn't make sense. So that's mostly the issue. It's the reason they micro buffed Orisa a lot, because her strength score might have been 95 when everyone else's was 98. And they're like, well, okay, well, we got to buff Orisa a little bit then, because her win rate isn't, you know, she doesn't work in the environment super good. Like, for example, a big reason that they buff and nerf Orisa a lot is almost entirely because her stats aren't amazing, but that's generally speaking because the environment isn't built for her. For example, if Tracer, Genji, Sombra, and Juno are really, really good, well then Orisa's probably not really good, because Orisa doesn't work super good with those heroes. Even if Orisa is objectively the strongest tank in the game when put in a vacuum, it wouldn't matter because she doesn't work with the environment. Therefore, even though she's strong, you wouldn't pick her, you'd pick a thing like D.Va, because she works better, because there's a strength, a multiplier, say, where it's infinitely more viable to pick a tank that works well with the most efficient support and DPS lines, instead of just the best tank, because obviously they amplify each other, right? Like a Genji is significantly stronger if he has a defense matrix on him all the time, his own defense matrix on him all the time, right? So, there's that. Doomfist, I don't like EMP Punch at all. I don't like the block mechanic. It's lame. It feels reliant on blind luck, where you're just like, oh, well, I'm pressing the button and I hope I get shot. It's boring. I'd like it if it was a more skill-based mechanic. I'm not a big fan of shit in the game where it's just like, you press the button and you go, well, now I just wait and see. Now, you could say it's a bit like Zarya's Bubble. You're like, well, you like Zarya, so what's the difference? It's because Zarya's Bubble is defensive ability, whereas Doom's is almost entirely an offensive ability, where he uses it almost purely for getting Empowered Punch and for no other reason, where Zarya Bubble is primarily for protecting yourself and letting you get involved in things you previously couldn't, because you didn't have the damage mitigation that you got from the bubble. Therefore, you apply the bubble to yourself, and your trade-off is that you get rewarded for your aggression with charge, but you also get the ability to walk in and actually do things, because the character is gatekept by the fact she has no mobility, so you have to obviously mitigate a bit of the lack of mobility with giving her some damage mitigation in the form of the bubble, so she's actually able to go in and do things, whereas Doomfist is hypermobile, he doesn't need that. Therefore, I think replacing the block with something a bit more skill-based, it makes infinitely more sense. So I don't necessarily know what that would be. Maybe give him his uppercut back. That would be a fun mechanic, because at least it's proactive, and it actually is a mechanic that you would use in a sense that is proactive and not just a herder, I need Empowered Punch, so I press the button, right? It's very boring. It's not very interesting. Hanzo, I think, got absolutely fucking slaughtered when they gave him his one-shot back. They just destroyed his muscle memory completely. I don't like that his charge time is so high. I don't know what the thought process behind that was. I guess it was to make him a less of a spam hero. But to be fair, Hanzo's never really been a spam hero. He's kind of always had the lowest or one of the smallest projectiles in the game. Something that I see a lot with people complaining about Hanzo is like he's shooting logs. Well, not really. If you go in and you check the history of the size of the hitbox, it's always been one of the smallest in the game. It's always been tiny. The reason people complain about it a lot is because, for example, if you say, let's say you're spamming down main and the entire enemy team is main, Hanzo's a bit of a noob trap. The enemy noob team don't understand that they can't just W down main against the Hanzo, because that's where Hanzo's very strong. When he's shooting into a large group of enemies, he's got a lot of opportunities to hit things. Therefore, you should spread out a little bit, you should take deeper off angles, you should take just more obscure angles, things like that, and it will make it so he can't spam you down, because that's what he's good at doing. So, he's a bit of a noob trap. Now, I understand if he's boring to play against, or he's lame, then that is a bit of a concern, and it should be addressed. However, I don't think that Hanzo is that way. I think the majority of people just don't like that they can't just win for free against him anymore. A lot of people were complaining about the one-shot when it came back, even when it was basically pointless, because the character is dog shit. He needs his 250 HP back, and he needs to shoot his arrows faster. The main issue with Hanzo is Storm Arrow just deletes tanks. That's the biggest issue with Hanzo right now. So, if anything, compensate him by giving him the 25 more HP, nerf the fuck out of the Storm Arrow, and lower the duration it takes him to draw his bow, and it'd be fine, because Storm Arrow is bullshit, and I think everyone can agree it's not a very well-made ability, and its strength doesn't really make sense in the game, but it is what it is. That's Hanzo for you. I don't like Illari either. The pylon is objectively bullshit, the character design is generally terrible, the bullet size is too big, she does too much damage for a support hero, and her healing per second is significantly too high. The overall hero just needs a big redesign, because she's designed terribly. Doesn't really make any sense why she does so much damage as a support hero, or why 90% of her actual healing comes from an inanimate object that's really difficult to interact with, that also has infinite uptime. It doesn't make any sense for the enemy team or for the defending team to interact with it outside of, okay, I need to stand next to the pylon so it heals me, or okay, I need to break the pylon so it doesn't heal the enemy team, but there is no interaction beyond that, because that's just simply how the hero was designed. There is no interesting game loop involved with it. That's just it. That is what it is. You just deal with the fact that the pylon is there because you broke it, or you put it in a spot where it can't be broken, and that's how the pylon works, and I think that's bad design. Her entire character needs redone, to be completely honest. I don't like any part of her. Okay, next, I would say Junkrat is problematic right now. If you're playing the game at even not the super highest levels, but any level where there's a lot of competitive integrity still left in the game, you would know that Junkrat, as of right now, is in a particular state that is not exactly the most enjoyable the character has ever been to go against. In the nicest way to put it, the character right now is bullshit. This boop is absolutely crazy. It does way too much. It sends tanks like 500 feet in the air, and it's extremely easy to use. Now, the problem isn't that it sends tanks 500 feet in the air. It's not necessarily a good thing, but it's not necessarily a bad thing if implemented correctly. The issue is, it's literally just I press left shift, when the mine is near you, I press right click, okay, now you are 500 feet in the air. There's no skill to the boop at all. There's a lot of skill when it comes to the one-shot combo, which I'm a big fan of. I think Junkrat should have his one-shot combo, as long as it's difficult. Now, the bombs have to be small, whereas right now, they're about the size of like a Jupiter, or perhaps something about that scale, where missing on Junkrat is legitimately difficult. Like, if you're shooting in the general direction of the enemy, you will hit them. The character's not that difficult to play right now. Now, is he difficult to play at a high level? Does he require a lot of skill in some cases? Absolutely. There are incredible Junkrat players that are very, very good at the hero. That does not mean that there are not aspects of the hero that aren't bullshit, which are the boop and the size of the bombs. So, make the bombs smaller, and make the boop do less damage, and I'm generally okay, or not less damage, sorry, make the boop less, because right now it's crazy how far it sends you. There's not really a whole lot you can do, especially on the tank roll, where I know it's not exactly the most effective strategy in the world to just say, me boop tank. You're probably going to lose if you spend your whole game doing it, but it is hell annoying to be on a tank and going, okay, well, I'm booped, okay, well, now I'm booped, okay, well, now I'm booped, and now the bombs are hitting me, which is booping me, and then, okay, well, now I'm booped, and it's just like, not exactly the most fun or interactive thing I've ever seen in the game. So, other than that, I'm a fan of Junkrat. I think he's got a place in the game, but I don't think it's the boop master that he's become. Kiriko, whole character's bullshit. I probably don't even need to get into this. I've made like 5 videos about why Kiriko's bullshit. All the Kiriko mains hate me. I don't care. Suzu is bullshit. Wall claim is bullshit on that character. The damage is way too high. The kunais are way too big. The healing is bullshit because it's homing. Her hitbox is absolutely tiny. The most effective strategy for killing her is shooting her in the feet because it's the only part of her hitbox that's genuinely consistently hittable because it's just the slightest bit wider than her, which is, you know, completely fine, I guess. Where the most effective strategy is shooting the character in the legs, but it's okay. That's a bit bullshit, but it is what it is. The TP is obviously bullshit. It just teleports you through walls. The character in general is absolutely brain dead. There is very little about her that actually requires any skill other than the flanking Kiriko's playstyle, which even now today is really not even that relevant because it's not that super effective anymore when you could just be holding down the heal button all day where it sends literal homing healing to people where it's borderline impossible to miss unless you are a complete idiot, then you could potentially miss it. Suzu is legitimately brain dead. You press the button and you basically save your whole team. The only time in where it's actually bad is if you yourself are terrible at Kiriko. Now, Suzu is not necessarily the easiest ability in the game to use. It requires some actually decent timing, and the overall effectiveness of it can be kind of bad in some cases where it doesn't really do anything because you didn't time it well, but that's not a problem with the character, that is a problem with you being dog shit. So the overall design of Kiriko is absolutely terrible. None of it makes any sense. The actual shooting mechanics are brain dead because a lot of it is just lucky spam outside of point blank where it requires actual aim. The healing is obviously homing, which is bullshit. Suzu does way too much for absolutely zero effort at all, which is bullshit. The teleport obviously requires quite literally zero skill whatsoever. Like the only thing you need to think about when taking a TP is, will I die if I do this? And if the answer is no, or maybe no, because you've still got 55 things that save you, well then it's probably fine, which is not exactly the most skillful list of things you need to go through to check if it's a viable option to literally teleport through walls. But the game's the game. The Kiriko mains will obviously defend her because she's got like a 45% win rate on ladder, because who gives a fuck about win rate and pick rate? If you want to learn about those, watch my video on why win rates and pick rates are bullshit. It's on my channel because it's my video. Anyway, Lifeweaver, another character that is complete bullshit and very lame. The life grip is absolutely brain dead. It's not fun to play against. It's not fun to play with. It's not skillful. It does not require some giant thought process. It's literally just press a button, save your teammate. It is a get out of jail free card, which is terrible for the game. The healing is homing, which obviously makes it brain dead, which makes it not very interactive. Now, do I believe that all characters with some form of easy healing need to be changed into something like Ana, where you actually need some level of mechanical skill in order to aim, or able to actually hit your healing? Absolutely not. I think characters like Lucio are absolutely incredible, and he requires absolutely zero mechanics to heal his team. Now he requires mechanics for other things, which I like, that you actually require some mechanics to do parts of his kit, but you don't need mechanics to heal on Lucio. Similarly, you don't need mechanics to heal on Moira. I'm not a big fan of how Moira heals, but it's not necessarily as problematic as other things, where like Baptiste, you need some mechanics to be able to consistently land heals on him. He can be difficult to heal on, but his AoE is so big that it really doesn't require that much, which is why I want it to be smaller. I want it to be a little more demanding. But it is what it is. I don't like Lifeweaver's homing missile healing, and I don't like the life grip. Everything else about him I think is completely fine. I would say, honestly, get rid of the homing healing, replace it with something else. Get rid of the life grip and replace it with something else. And then make him literally anything else that you can imagine. I don't care. Give him like a tangle. I don't know. Give him a snare. A snare would be cool in a support. But not necessarily like a super good snare, like a Junkrat trap or something. But something like that. A skill shot where you hit someone and they're snared. Give him something that requires some mechanics that rewards him for hitting a skill shot. Something to make this character less brain dead. And you could even give him some carry potential with that. There we go. Mei, Blizzard charges too fast. She's also bad against Tracer because she doesn't do enough damage to right-click her in the head and one-shot her anymore. Whereas previously, before Season 9, she could right-click a Tracer in the face and it would one-shot her, which made her viable in brawl comps, but now she doesn't do enough damage to one-shot Tracer anymore, which kind of makes Mei kind of useless against Tracer now in the brawl, which was the only reason you picked Mei previously, which was one of the reasons you picked Mei previously, is because she was good at brawl and she could fight a Tracer. But it is what it is. I think make it so Blizzard doesn't charge as fast, make it so she can one-shot Tracer again. Seems like a fair trade-off, because right now, it's genuinely not uncommon to get Blizzard, like, every 1.5 fights, get a Blizzard. It's really, really fast to charge. So I'm not a big fan of that. I don't like Mercy's design at all. I made a video about Mercy. A lot of Mercy mains watched about 25 seconds of it, and then commented about how they didn't like the video, which is just classic Mercy main brain. Basically, I went over the video about... I'll summarize. Generally, what I said in the video is that Mercy doesn't work in the game anymore, and that I don't like her design, not necessarily because she doesn't work in the game anymore, because I don't like her design in general, but also because it doesn't work in the game anymore. A hero like Mercy doesn't work because you have things in the game like Baptiste. Why in the world would you ever pick a hero like Mercy when you can pick Baptiste? Baptiste has damage potential, more player agency, more healing options, better utility, more survivability, is just simply better for the team, a better ult, is better in every single way. There is absolutely no reason to have a character like Mercy. And that's not necessarily because Mercy's numbers are bad. That's not because her healing per second is too low, or damage boost is too low, or her cooldowns are too long. It's because her overall design doesn't work in the game anymore, where offensive support utility is absolutely the bread and butter of the game at the moment. And Mercy has absolutely fucking none of that. She also doesn't have any solo player agency or solo carry potential, unlike a lot of the other supports do, where she would just simply never fit. The only scenario in which a Mercy is not absolutely terrible is when there is a bronze e-girl on Mercy that is pocketing their top 500 Ashe one trick, and any other scenario on planet Earth, and she's completely fucking useless. So, I don't know, fix the character maybe, Blizzard, because they're fucking ass. And it'd be cool if they weren't, but I'd also like if they weren't brain dead, because they are. Like, Mercy's in a weird spot where she's simultaneously terrible and brain dead and annoying, and there's just a lot of aspects of her that don't work. They fucked this character up real bad. I feel bad for Mercy players, man. I remember back in the day in Overwatch 1 when our techs required skill and the hero wasn't brain dead, and it was more difficult to survive, and the techs were actually hard to pull off, and you had to know how to do them perfectly to get into certain... It was actually skillful. And then, obviously, they added all to cooldowns, press a button, oh, you did the cool tech, and then, you know, the movement got simplified, and the hero got easier. They fucked that character up badly, man. I feel bad for Mercy players. Simplifying the hero seemed good on paper until... here's the thing, let me rant for a second. A lot of people talk about simplifying the game and how that's better for the casual player base. I'm sorry, you're objectively wrong. A simplified game is not better for a casual player base or a competitive player base. It's not good for a competitive player base because a simplified game is an easier game with less player agency and less options because the game is more solved. Therefore, there are generally less options, and because there are less options, it means there is less solo potential to actually pull things off. Whereas in Overwatch 1, there was a lot of solo player agency where you're able to do a lot of things by yourself because the game was so complex, there were so many options, that if you were better at making decisions and better mechanically, you could pull off better plays. Therefore, more carry potential was awarded to the player that was better at the game. Unlike today, where the game is so accessible to the point where everyone can do everything so easily that overcoming the differences of other people is more difficult because everyone is better at doing everything because the game is easier and more simple. Therefore, the game has less player agency and less carry potential overall because the difference you make up for in the skill of yourself is lower due to the fact the game is more accessible. Therefore, the easier the game is, the worse it is for the competitive player base. But it's also worse for the casual player base because then the casual player base have nothing to strive for. If you load into the game and everything is explained to you immediately, all the tech is super easy, and you learn how to play your character in 30 minutes, then there is absolutely no reason to stick around because there is no complexity. There is no deep learning curve for a player to sink their teeth into anymore because it's all already explained to them. Therefore, you're less likely to keep players hanging around because there is less to strive for. Whereas in Overwatch 1, the reason it won Game of the Year, it was due to the fact it was so complex. There were so many things to learn about it, so many interesting team compositions, so many ways to play the game, so much mechanical demand. The game was genuinely very hard, which is why people absolutely loved it, and it's the same reason people absolutely love Counter-Strike. The game is very hard. That's one of the big selling points for the game. When it comes to a competitive game, the point is that it is difficult. That's the point. Imagine StarCraft was a super easy game. No one would fucking care if people were good at StarCraft. Therefore, there's nothing to strive for. A lot of the reason people care about competition in video games like this is due to the fact that it's hard. No one gives a fuck about people that are really good at Animal Crossing because the game isn't hard. Now, imagine Animal Crossing was insanely difficult. Holy shit, people would love it because it's difficult. The accessibility is lower. Therefore, the people who are good at it get more recognition because it's harder to be good. Therefore, there is more competitive drive. Just saying, in case that wasn't already obvious, but the game's the game, right? What was I talking about? I was talking something about fucking Mercy. It doesn't even matter. Moira's bullshit. I don't like Moira. The Fade is dumb. It's like the easiest ability to use in the whole fucking game. You just press it. It's the best escape ability in the game. I don't like it. Make the character require more skill. I don't like the fucking damage. Is like it sucks you down and it does a bunch of damage. You don't need to aim. I get it. There needs to be heroes in the game that don't have a mechanical demand to be accessible, but you cannot simultaneously have a character with the minimum mechanical demand and also relatively high damage output. For the little demand, it's 65 damage a second on a support character with literal aimbot within like 20 to 25 meters. I think it's 20 meters, which is, I'm sorry, not exactly the most competitively integral thing I've ever seen in the world. It's not exactly interactive when the enemy Moira is like, oh, you're on my screen, so I'm killing you. And it's like, well, I actually have to aim. Now, is it difficult to kill a Moira? No, but is it fucking annoying? Is it weird going, oh, well, I lost to this guy, not because he's better at the game, not because his positioning was better, not because his aim was better, not because his cooldown usage was better, none of that. He won because he has aimbot on his button and I whiffed a couple of shots. Right? Now, if, for example, I whiffed a couple of shots against a McCree and the McCree killed me, well, fair enough, man. He hit his shots. He deserves to win. I missed mine. He hit his. Therefore, he wins. But that's not what the interaction is with Moira. Moira is, I'm going to kill you over time, and unless you can overcome your mechanical infidelity, then I fucking win. By default. It's the baby character. I don't like Moira. Orisa, obviously, the horse, bullshit hero, no one likes the horse. Fortify is a dumb ability, because fucking obviously it is. It's just a, well, I don't get headshot and I take damage resistance now when I press it. I've never liked abilities like this in the history of the game. It's never made sense to me that you can just go, well, I'm going to press a button. Okay, well, now I have damage resistance, right? It's a bit like Junker Queen. I don't like that Junker Queen can press shout and everyone gets over health. That's fucking annoying. It's not exactly a skillful mechanic. It's not an interesting mechanic. It is literally just, I press the button, my team gets over health. It's very fucking bullshit. I don't like it. I'd honestly prefer if it just made you run faster, right? I don't know why it needs over health. The reason it gives you over health is because the game is in 5v5 and you need some form of extra mitigation on a queen to actually help our team move forward, whereas other heroes don't need that because they naturally do that because they are better built tank heroes like Reinhardt that can hold the shield and can help his teammates walk forward, or like Monkey who can jump in and take all the aggro so his team can move forward, or things like that. Whereas Queen doesn't really have that. She's a full speed ground tank, therefore she needs some way to keep her team alive when they are moving forward because she has no form of mitigating damage for her team. Therefore they need to give her over health when she presses the button, otherwise she'll be useless because it's 5v5 and 5v5 is terrible, but we've already spoken about that, so I won't get into it anymore. But the overhealth is fucking bullshit. The javelin spin on Orisa's brain dead as well. It's just press a button and you aren't taking damage from the front to anything other than beams, and you're also pushing shit away. It's not exactly a very interesting mechanic. It's not exactly a very fun mechanic or demanding mechanic. It's literally just in the game to be in the game. It's quite literally just, I'm a baby and I'm bad, therefore I'm pressing the spinny button to stay alive. It's very annoying. It also just completely deletes the interaction with Reinhardt because Reinhardt's swing doesn't reach the distance of which the spin is spinning you, so if you're getting spun, you can't actually hit the Orisa because she's too far away, which means she just gets to manhandle Reinhardt. I don't know why they decided to build it like this, where Reinhardt has literally no player agency at all in the Orisa duel. At all, unless the Orisa is absolutely terrible. Very, very well done, Blizzard. The spear is cool. I think it boops way too much. You get sent fucking miles when you get hit with it. But I like the mechanic. It's a skill shot. It rewards you. It does good damage. It stuns people for a very short time, but enough to actually make a play with it. It boops them a lot. Well, it should boop them a lot less. It should boop them a little bit, but not very far. So it actually gives the Orisa some time to make their play. They hit their skill shot. They should get rewarded with something, whether that be a lot of damage or whatever it may be. But it's a skill shot. It literally requires you to say, okay, I am throwing my one-time use until it's off cooldown again, ability of which will stun you a little bit, boop you a little bit, do a little bit of damage to you, and therefore I am able to make a play off of whatever environment I created based on my skill shot. Orisa's javelin is fairly well designed, it just does too much. So I'm actually okay with that part of her kit. Pharah, I actually think Pharah is not that annoying anymore. I still don't really think flying characters really work in the game. The game wasn't really built or designed to house flying characters all that well, especially in 5v5, because, would you know, hitscan became even more broken in 5v5. It was broken in 6v6 to be fair as well. Like, the majority of metas in Overwatch 1 were to circumvent things like double sniper, absolutely fucking reaming everything because it was so strong all the time. So a lot of metas were to stop double sniper. Not necessarily to stop it, but a part of it was to be like, if Widow, Hanzo, and things like that, and then obviously later on Ashe, were bad because of the comp, then it was generally a pretty good comp, because Widow, Hanzo, and Ashe and things like that kind of just ran the lobby. Obviously Ashe later on, because she was added later. Anyway, but I'm not a big fan of flying heroes in general, but especially not in 5v5, because they don't work. Because the only circumvention to a flying hero is generally a hitscan hero, because it's too difficult and it's too inconsistent to hit them with projectile heroes, but it's really easy to heal them. So they get healing really easily, but they can't get hit very easily, which means they're obviously going to be getting more healing than hitting, therefore they're going to be alive all the time. So you need something a bit more consistent, something as consistent as the healing in order to kill it, therefore you get hitscan, which is the most consistent damage type in the game, but also insanely problematic because the flying characters are going to be really far away. So you mix a very high damage, very consistent damage type, and what do you know, it's not just good against the flying shit that's far away, it's good into literally everything, which makes hitscan extremely problematic, because it can't be, if it's good against flying shit, it's good against everything, which is problematic. Hitscan has always been problematic in this game, and it's always had a lot of bias. For some reason. It's probably because people who play hitscan are fucking dog shit. That's a pretty big generalization, but it tends to be true. It requires the least amount of game knowledge because the entire hero is aim-based, and aiming in this game can be very difficult. So the people who are very good at aiming don't even really get rewarded all that much, actually, because you do no fucking damage at range, and you do no damage at range because if you did, it would be insanely problematic because it would be too consistent. That's the problem. Hitscan is too consistent, and therefore, if it is good, then it is problematic because it is so consistent, like infinite damage basically going down your team all the time. That's high damage is insanely problematic. There's no way to fix that. So hitscan in general just doesn't really work in this game super well, but especially in 5v5, more so than 6v6. So Pharah is what it is, to be honest. Ramattra, people are gonna give me shit for this take, but I don't care because I'm right. I don't like Ramattra punching through shields, really, and I also don't like that when he goes into Nemesis Room he gains a bunch of armor. It's silly. It's very silly. Now, punching through shields, less so. I don't mind it that much, because it's pretty niche, and if you play well against it, you're never going to die to a Ramattra punching you through your Ryan shield, or through your Monkey shield, really. Like, you'd have to fuck up pretty badly to die to that, and it usually is just the Ramattra making a good play, and that's why you die. So it's not necessarily that bad, it's just a little bit annoying, but outside of the little bit of annoyance, it's actually pretty much okay. The biggest issue I have with Ramattra is just the I press Nemesis form Teehee plus 300 armor, or whatever the actual number is, which is annoying because it's not skill-based. It's literally just, I press button, I get armor to heat. It's a bit like Junker Queen, but it's a little bit less aggressive because it doesn't apply to your whole team. It just applies to the Ramattra himself. And then also the fact that when he does that, he also gains the ability to block. Like, 50% of the damage that hits him in the face. So he gets more armor, and he gets the block. It's a lot of defensive capability. I don't like it. The block is enough. He doesn't need to gain armor when he goes Nemesis form. Because why the fuck would he? He's already got a lot of survivability. Doesn't need even more. It's very lame to be killing Ramattra, and then he pops Nemesis form, and it's like, ah, well, time to chop through 400 more fucking armor before we kill him. And he's blocking, and he's getting healed, and it's like he's fucking invincible. Well, he's just better at the game. You press shift, which is lame. I don't like it. It's not exactly a very fun mechanic, nor is it a very intensive mechanic that requires any skill at all. It's literally just pressing a button. It's kind of bullshit. It's a bit like Suzu, to be honest, but less bullshit, obviously. I was going to complain about Reaper, but I don't know if I actually hate Reaper all that much. I just think he does a lot of damage to the tank heroes, and he can be very boring to play against sometimes. Like, if you're getting hard marked by a Reaper as like a tank hero, it's annoying. It's not the end of the world. You can definitely play against it, but it is fucking annoying. Like, if you're playing Reinhardt and you drop your shield and it's just sitting there chunking you for like 100 damage a shot, it's annoying. But it's not necessarily that bad. So I'm actually not going to complain about Reaper. I think he's generally fine. If you play against him well, he'll lose, and if he plays really well into you, then he'll win, and that's pretty much worth it to me. He's not exactly a very easy to play hero. He's not just rewarded because he is. I think he's fine. Reinhardt fucking sucks. He's bad. I'm doing a I'm one-tricking Reinhardt to GM right now. I'm fucking ass at Ryan. I'm really bad. I'm genuinely terrible. But that character is also terrible. Fantastic. Hog is bullshit. I don't like that he can one-shot, because why can he do that? I know that says identity, but like maybe don't make his identity, but he can one-shot. I also don't like it making self-heal. I don't like there being damage mitigation on his self-heal either. I think that is pretty boring as well. But just generally, Hog's design overall is not necessarily the best thing for the game, in my opinion. It's not exactly the most fun to be shooting a Hog and then, oh, Tiki, he's healing himself. Now, it wasn't that bad in 6v6. I mean, it was at times, because he actually had it on a cooldown, and it healed for a set amount, and you could stun him out of it, and he had to stand still when he used it. And his left click and right click were more skill based, because it wasn't just 2 in 1. So he required a bit more mechanical skill, and the hook was smaller. So he actually was not just the easy brain dead character that he is now. But he's also harder to play now, because it's 5v5 and you don't have a tank to mitigate all that extra damage for you. So I do feel bad for Hog players, but also that character is bullshit, and I don't really like him all that much anyway, so it is what it is. Sigma, I think Sigma's fine in 5v5. If it goes 6v6, he needs major nerfs. The fact that he was a hero that when 5v5 came around, basically received absolutely nothing but nerfs, and yet still fits into 5v5 better than every tank in the game, goes to show that he never should have been in 6v6 in the first place, because if he can hold his own as a solo tank in 5v5 without a rework or some buffs or something like that, well, then he sure as shit can hold his own in 6v6 when he's got an extra tank with him. Sigma has always been bullshit. He's bullshit to this day. He just does too much. He's overkitted, even to this day right now. But it's 5v5, so it's not that bad. But I'm hoping for him to get nerfed when 6v6 comes around. Sojourn's pretty bad right now, but I don't like the design in general, to be honest. It's just like, they just made Soldier, but they flipped the projectiles and the hit scans. And it kind of goes to show why they initially made Soldier the way he was. Like, imagine his Helix was hit scan. It's like, just doesn't really work. Like, the super high damage burst being on the hit scan and not the projectile is like kind of pointless, because the projectile then becomes absolutely worthless. Like, the projectile part of her kit is fucking pointless. Why would you use that when she's got a high burst damage, hit scan, railgun on, like the other one is more consistent and it does more like, there's no point in the projectile because you've got the hit scan, if you know what I mean. Like, it doesn't fucking matter. Like, it goes to show why Soldier was designed the way he was, because you would just helix everything. There'd be no point in shooting your projectile gun. You would just be helixing everything, because why the fuck would you waste your time using the shitty projectile when you could just use the consistent hit scan thing and just die damage, right? There you go. Sojourn's badly designed. Who could have seen that coming? Soldier's absolutely fucking ass. He does no damage. Everyone knows that. Sombra is bullshit. Permanent invis doesn't make any sense. I don't know why it's even in the game in the first place. Permanent invis has never been smart. Hack is never a good mechanic. It's not fun to play against. It's not difficult to pull off outside of the extremely high levels where you need to know exactly when you need to be hacking things. But the character's not even really used at an extremely high level because there are better options. Therefore, she's not even used in the first place. So there's no reason for her to be the way she is because she requires absolutely no skill whatsoever. She has extremely high burst damage. She can absolutely fry anyone she wants. She has absolutely no skill curve whatsoever because 90% of the shit that makes a DPS character difficult is understanding your rotations, positioning, how to off angle, how to rotate through dangerous angles, how to take 1v1s, how to engage on them, whereas Sombra doesn't need to know any of that because she's invisible and just circumvents those core mechanics of the game, which makes the character inherently bullshit. Who could have seen that the invisible character is bullshit? Obviously not the devs, because she's still invisible. Wow. Symmetra's health bar is insanely fat. I don't know why they buffed her health bar, but they did. She's 275. She shouldn't be 275. She should be 250, like everyone else, because she's not difficult to stay alive on. Who could have foreseen this? The character that can teleport isn't difficult to stay alive on. No. Outside of the really good Symmetra players, yes, she's not the strongest character in the game, absolutely not. She's on the weaker side for the newbie noobs. But let me tell you, at the highest levels in like GM, really good Symmetra players are really good. Who could have seen that coming? And they are borderline impossible to kill sometimes, and they do absurdly high amount of damage. The game should likely be balanced in a way that does not allow this character to be good, because they are not exactly the most fun. I don't think any character with a bunch of deployables is fun. I don't like breaking deployables or interacting with deployables because I'm not interacting with a player, which is the point of the game. If I wanted to interact with deployables, I'd play a PvE game. Like, I don't really want to be shooting a lamp or a turret or a pylon or a bunch of other bullshit things that just aren't exactly the most interactive or fun mechanics because they're lame. I don't like a sim turret. I don't like that it does so much damage. I don't like that it slows you down and you can't move when you're in it. I don't like her regular damage and how it does so much fucking damage and you just die if you go near her. I don't like it. But she's also terrible, so it's fine. It's not that big of a deal because I don't get to see her that much because she's bad. She also makes Reinhardt good, so she's, you know, +1 for that. I like when a character makes Reinhardt good. So +1 to Symmetra, I guess. I don't know what that means. Torb is very strong right now. I like his hero design. I don't really have a lot of problems with Torb right now. I think Torb is fine. For the most part. Tracer is strong, like she always is, and I think that's fine, because she's hard to play. So Tracer's fine. Venture, I don't like the character design at fucking all, to be honest. I don't like that she just perma-CCs you. I don't like that when she comes out of the ground, she boops you. I don't like it when she drills you, you get stun locked in a Mortal Kombat combo where you can't move. I don't like any of that. I don't like that she's just this DPS Sigma. I don't like that. I don't like that she can grab health packs and contest the point while underground. I don't like that. And the main reason for that is because when she comes out of that, she does damage. It's not like a Reaper Wraith, because when Reaper comes out of Wraith, he's very vulnerable. Whereas Venture is not vulnerable when she comes out of take, because she does damage when she comes out of take. And she's hypermobile when she comes out of take. And she can drill when she's out of take. And she can do all this. And she gains health when she comes out of the deck. The character's bullshit. She gets overshielded by pressing buttons. Not for hitting cooldowns like old Doomfist. For pressing the button. Not for landing it, but for pressing it. That's bullshit. I don't care what you say. That's just inherently bullshit. There's absolutely no reason that I should be able to go, teehee, I press my hypermobility button, and I also gain health. That's a bit fucking lame to me. So I don't like Venture. Widow, the character's annoying. I'm not going to go over it again. The one-shot's broken. The grapple is a dumb cooldown. She's not diveable enough. The fucking same old Monkey is pretty strong right now, and I like Monkey, and a Monkey is a fair character and hard to play, therefore I'm fine with it. Ball sucks. Ball's not very good, and that makes me sad because I like when Ball is good, because Ball is mechanically demanding and very difficult. He can be a little annoying to play against. Not really if you have a brain. But, you know, game's the game. I like Ball. I like Ball. I think Ball's difficult to play. I like when Ball's good, because it means that if you're good at Ball, you're rewarded. And if you're bad at Ball, you can't just you can't just go, teehee, my hero's cheesy. Teehee. Press a button, teehee. Bullshit ass hero, anyway. Zarya is bad because she has absolutely no ability to actually threaten anything at all because she has no uptime really at all. That's not necessarily correct, but Zarya has very low uptime compared to other tanks because she relies almost entirely on 2 bubbling when she's in a fight because she dies so fucking fast. Her health bar is a lot lower than the others, and she also doesn't have armor like the others do, therefore she dies a lot faster. But she has, obviously the trade-off being that she has high damage, but she has no mobility at all, so if they go anything poke at all, you fucking die. So, unlucky. I don't think Zarya is very good right now, and I like when Zarya is not super good, but is playable. And she is kind of playable right now, so she's not that bad. But I would like if she was a little better. We'll say that. Zen is just absolutely boring to Zen. I don't like Discord. I don't think anyone likes Discord. I don't think outside of the people who play Zenyatta likes Discord. I don't think any soul on the planet thinks Discord is a good ability or healthy for the game. Oh, I walk around the corner in Zenyatta, I see the tank, I press Discord, you're now Discorded, and now you take 25% more damage or whatever it is. Not because I had a skill shot on you that applied the Discord, not because of anything like that, but because I pressed E, or whatever keybind you have set the Discord button to. Which is bullshit, in case you couldn't guess. I don't like it. I also don't like the Zen kick. It doesn't make any sense that he just hits you with the melee, and then you fly away. That's it. You fly away because he meleeed you. It's fucked. It's boring. It's not fun. I don't like it. Anyway, that was me talking about what I want, what I hate about the Overwatch heroes. I realized that this video had a premise at the start and then quickly dissolved into being not a premise, but then instead started getting into the issues with the Overwatch hero design and why it's terrible. This is a long one. This is a fucking long one, Buster. Anyway, what did they say? Like and subscribe, guys, and join my Discord and subscribe to my OnlyFans, and give me Robux, and I don't know. Bye. I guess. Goodbye. Goodbye.